Lil Wayne, one of my favorite artists of all time, is dropping the Carter 6 tomorrow. For anyone who listens to his music, that's a huge deal. The Carters are just like so goated. Sorry, I have a little lisp because of this retainer that I have to straighten out my teeth. I don't actually talk with a lisp, so I'm sorry about that. But I was just meditating, which I do every single day. And I always feel compelled to record these messages because I hear so much when I meditate, and I'm learning to meditate in silence, not with a guided meditation, and just hear what God has to say to me. Lil Wayne has been one of my favorite artists, one of my biggest inspirations for like as long as I can remember. When I was in like elementary, middle school, so when I first started listening to him, like back when you used to buy individual songs on iTunes, like I remember like buying those songs individually. People don't realize, I feel like sometimes people don't even like, I feel like he'll always be like underrated for what he is. Even people who appreciate him, like I still feel like there's just like, you have to understand, like this man is an oracle. Truly, it's like he's an oracle. He's been like an oracle since he was like a kid. He's just so talented and so gifted. And people just like, people don't realize how hard he works. I don't think, like, you know, and he has been like, he's been such a big part of music and the music industry. And since he works so hard, like he's recorded like hundreds, maybe not like even thousands of songs. I don't know how many songs he has posted on Spotify, but he's someone who just has put out like a lot of work because he just like, he said, he's like, I never stop working. I never stop making music. People don't realize like how many popular songs he's in. Like at this point, he's like a staple because he's had so many songs, and so many of them, you know, have been just a part of popular culture or whatever. Like he's just like, I think people have become so used to him being such a big player in rap and hip hop and all of that, that like they don't even realize how many songs he's in, you know. And he just has like, he has the craziest lore. Like he got famous when he was like a kid because he just was brilliant. He was a brilliant writer, brilliant rapper. You know, and very relatable to like, you know, a lot of creatives can relate, you know. You can tell the dude's like super sensitive and he thinks a lot, right? And you know, he tried to pew unalive himself like as a kid, right? And that's very relatable for me and for a lot of other creatives I know. But you know, it really has me thinking a lot about divine intervention, right? Because like his neighbor called the police, and like the police officer that saved him, like he had a relationship with that. Like he stayed in contact with that officer for a long time, and when he died, like that officer died of, I think, old age, you know. Lil Wayne posted, you know, about him and his impact. And you know, as I've been meditating and becoming very spiritual and building a relationship with the divine, like I really have come to consider as an artist, like the best artists have figured out and have become exactly who God incarnated them to be every single day. And that's not just like a process of like, oh, you figure it out once and then like you're set. It's like, no, it's a constantly evolving process that you have to continually work hard on, you know. And when people ask me like, who are my biggest inspirations, like in my music, like I always say that my two favorite artists across the board for like over a decade have been Lil Wayne and Lana Del Rey. And people say like, oh wow, those are like so different, but they're not. If you actually look at like who they are, like they're both very hard workers and they both figured out exactly who God incarnated them to be. And that's an affirmation I say to God like all the time, like especially like because I just turned 28 the other day. I made a vlog about that. I was up like right before the clock turned 12 on my birthday, and I did like a little mini meditation, and I've been saying the affirmation right before that, and I've been saying this recently. I've been saying, God, help me become exactly who you incarnated me to be. You know, because now that I have a clear head, now that I'm healthy, now that I take care of myself, you know, now that, you know, my only wish, I don't just have the space for one wish to be healthy, because once you become healthy, you can have like a million wishes, right? So now that I get, you know, the luxury of thinking about other things like making art and, you know, the classes I'm in, finishing my bachelor's degree now, which was something that was off the table, like when I was really sick, you know, all these different things that like I worry about now or whatever, I have the luxury of worrying about. You know, I've just been asking God, like, because sometimes I worry, am I on the right path? Am I doing this right? Did I not do this right? But like, I've been hearing all of these messages in this quiet time meditation without any guided meditation, nothing. Past couple of days, I've really, really been getting these downloads. Like, you know, God said like the other day, like, you don't have to worry about like the actual content posting all that much. Cause I do catch myself worrying about that, right? Because I do catch myself worrying about that because I used to like not really do the content creation stuff and not promote my stuff, and people weren't finding my stuff because of that. So like, obviously you do have to do it. That's not what I'm saying. But I heard God say stuff like, just focus more on co-creating the art with me and less so about like the content creation part. And so back to Lil Wayne, like, as I've become very spiritual this year as an artist, and I realize like what does make a good artist, people don't realize like this is someone who is just so like, any talent that any person has, it's not just because like they have it. And I mean, obviously like developing your skill and working hard, those are important things, obviously, but like we're all incarnated. Every single one of us is so different. Every single one of us is so different. There's no two people who are like exactly the same, even identical twins. Like from a soul perspective, there's no two people who are exactly the same. None of us are carbon copies of each other. That's just like not how it works, right? Everyone's incarnated to be this very specific like person and thing and have this story and have these different like attributes about them, right? And a lot of people don't ever live up to their full highest potential. A lot of people don't ever become exactly who God incarnated them to be because of societal pressures, and people are worried about like, what do other people think of me, and is this person going to judge me, and is that person going to judge me? And that's why I'm big about like, if there are random people who you went to freaking middle school with, or like, you know, some family, like the second cousin or whatever, that like you're like subconsciously afraid of, like, if I post this, what are they going to think? Which is like literally ridiculous, right? But we all have that thought. Like, seriously, block them, unadd them. Like, who cares? Who cares? You haven't talked to them. And it's not worth your legacy to make yourself small for random people. It's not. And so what I've really been considering lately about like Lil Wayne and Lana Del Rey and these artists that I really look up to is like, they've figured out exactly who God incarnated them to be. They're so themselves. They don't give a fuck what other people think. It's very crazy to me too. Speaking on Lana Del Rey, when I see people saying her music sucks, it just does not make sense to me, because like, that's just someone whose art I just connect with, have always connected with so much. So, you know, when you start getting lots of hate comments, it does mean you're doing something right. Back to Lil Wayne though. I think something, you know, like so someone like me, right? You would think that I have nothing in common with him. I'm not the same gender. I'm not the same race. I'm not from the same kind of background at all. You know, I don't sound like him. Like, I don't talk the way he does, you know, like I probably wouldn't like write the things he does even. I mean, I have some similar themes for sure, but, you know, like, you'd outwardly think that like me and him have like nothing in common, and like, why would he be one of my favorite artists ever? He's so himself, you know, and there are like universal themes that he taps into that I'm a big believer now in the universal consciousness, right? We are truly all one. Thought transmission is real. And I mean, if you really think about it, like, I am one of 14 billion people to have ever lived and one of 8 billion people alive right now. There is absolutely no way anything I've gone through, anything I will go through, any thought I had, nothing is a unique thought. Nothing is an original experience. You see people commenting on TikTok all the time, oh, I've never had an original experience. It's like, no, you haven't. How could you possibly have at this point? How could you? Like, there's certain things, like, every single person is different, but we're all exactly the same too, in the sense that we all have the same experiences, the same emotions. Nothing's unique. No experience is unique. You're not the only one who's ever you can never be someone who's the only person who's ever gone through a certain situation. You can never be that. So, you know, the divine just, like, speaks through Lil Wayne, is what I'm trying to say. The divine just speaks through him. The universal consciousness, we all connect to what he says in the universal consciousness. He just really, really, like, God really, really, really created him to come here and just be this person who just, like, he's an oracle. I don't know what to say. And that's the divine using people as their instruments. And it's a bit random, you know, like, what kinds of professions and careers appeal to people, but it's like God incarnates us to be a specific thing. So as this Carter 6 release has come up, like, I've thought about it in a very, very, very spiritual way. You know, I relate to, like, having seizures. I relate to trying to unalive myself because I was just so distraught and just didn't see a way out. And, you know, like, that divine intervention of being saved and God still having a plan for me and needing me here to do more stuff, even when I tried to take myself out. You know, like, there's so many universal things, and people just think, like, oh, like Fireman and Lollipop and all of that. And obviously those are bangers, but people do not realize, like, if you listen to the Carter 5, like, one of my favorite Lil Wayne songs ever is Can't Be Broken on the Carter 5. And just, like, the themes of, like, you know, to a certain level, you can't really trust anyone, you know? Like, everyone relates to that, you know? Like, that no one should say other people's business, no one should talk shit or whatever, but, like, to a certain extent, everybody does. Like, it's just these universal themes, and I don't know, people just don't realize, like, how much, like, he's just so tapped into source. He's so tapped into source. If there's any chance that Dwayne Carter, Lil Wayne himself, sees this, like, I want you to know, like, you've been just a huge, huge influence, you know, for me as, you know, not only someone who listens to music, as an artist myself, as someone who writes, you know, he really has a way with just connecting with, like, everyone. And it's so evident how hard he works. I saw this interview where he, like, right after he released the Carter 3, he was, like, back in the studio that night, and someone was like, aren't you going to be, like, out celebrating? He's like, no, I'm working. He always is always working. And that's just very, very admirable. One of my favorite artists ever. Seriously. He's amazing. So I just wanted to record something on the eve of the Carter 6 coming out, because I'm really, really, really excited for it to come out tomorrow. And I just turned 28, like, 2 days ago, so it's kind of like a late birthday present. Anyway, I'm going to work out and do some homework, but I love you, Lil Wayne. You're incredible. I know I don't have to tell you this, but never stop doing what you do.